Asylum and refugee status are both critical protections provided under U.S. immigration law and international treaties for individuals fleeing persecution. Although they serve a similar purpose, offering safe haven to those whose lives are in danger due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, they differ significantly in terms of eligibility, application process, location of application, and the legal pathways that follow. Confusing these terms can lead to misunderstandings, legal missteps, and missed opportunities for protection. This video highlights the top 10 key differences between asylum and refugee status, shedding light on the legal, procedural, and practical distinctions that shape each path to safety and legal residence in the United States. 1. Location of the applicant at the time of applying. The most fundamental difference between asylum and refugee status lies in where the individual is when they apply. Asylum seekers must already be physically present in the United States or at a port of entry, like an airport or border crossing, when they request protection. In contrast, refugees must apply from outside the United States, typically from their country of first asylum or refugee camp. This distinction means that an asylum seeker often travels to the U.S. independently before making their claim, while a refugee undergoes a pre-arrival vetting process abroad before resettling. 2. Application process and oversight. Refugees go through a lengthy application and vetting process overseen by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, and coordinated by U.S. agencies like the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security. This process includes interviews, background checks, and health screenings, often taking 18 to 24 months or more. Asylum seekers, on the other hand, apply directly to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, or an immigration judge after entering the country. While both groups face rigorous screening, asylum seekers initiate the process themselves without going through the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program. 3. Legal definitions under U.S. and international law. Though both refugees and asylum seekers must demonstrate a well-founded fear of persecution, they are defined separately under U.S. immigration law. A refugee is defined in Section 101(a) 42 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, and includes individuals outside their country who are unable or unwilling to return due to persecution. Asylees are defined under U.S. law as individuals who meet the same definition but apply for protection after arriving in the U.S. This legal separation guides how each category is processed and adjudicated, even though the underlying criteria for fear of persecution are essentially the same. 4. Processing agencies and initial interviews. Refugee applications are primarily handled by the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, USRAP, with interviews conducted by officials from the Department of Homeland Security's Refugee Affairs Division while the applicant is still abroad. Asylum applications, however, are reviewed either by USCIS asylum officers, for affirmative cases, or by immigration judges in court, for defensive cases. This difference in who evaluates the case and where the initial contact takes place significantly affects timelines, outcomes, and legal strategies for applicants. 5. Quotas and annual limits. Refugee admissions are subject to annual caps set by the U.S. President through the Presidential Determination on Refugee Admissions, which can vary significantly year to year depending on policy and global events. For example, in 2025, the cap might be 125,000 individuals globally. Asylum, on the other hand, is not capped. There are no numerical limits to how many people can be granted asylum each year, though backlogs and limited court resources can delay case resolution. This difference gives asylum seekers an arguably more flexible path, though not necessarily faster or easier. 6. Time limits for applying. To qualify for asylum, an individual must apply within 1 year of their last arrival in the U.S., unless they qualify for an exception such as changed or extraordinary circumstances. Failure to meet this deadline can result in automatic denial. In contrast, refugees do not face such a deadline. They begin the process before entering the country, often after being referred by international organizations. This strict 1-year rule makes it imperative for asylum seekers to act quickly and seek legal advice upon arrival. 7. Access to government assistance. Once admitted, refugees are immediately eligible for various forms of federal assistance, including cash assistance, food stamps, medical aid, housing, and employment services, for a limited time. Asylum seekers are not eligible for these benefits until their asylum is granted, which can take months or even years. Even then, some benefits may not be retroactive. This disparity makes financial survival more difficult for asylum seekers in the early stages, pushing many into underemployment or vulnerable situations while they wait. 8. Employment authorization timelines. Refugees are granted employment authorization immediately upon arrival in the U.S., as part of their admission. Asylum seekers, however, must wait 150 days after filing their application before they can even apply for a work permit, and another 30 days before they may legally work. Delays in filing or issues with application completeness can extend this waiting period, making the job search much harder. This difference places an additional economic burden on asylum applicants, often forcing them to rely on personal savings or community aid. 9. Family reunification and petitioning for relatives. Both asylees and refugees are allowed to petition for certain immediate family members to join them in the U.S., but the timing and process differ. Refugees can include spouses and children under 21 on their initial application, and their family members typically arrive together or shortly after. Asylees must wait until their asylum is granted, then file Form I-730 to petition for spouses and children. This can delay reunification significantly. Furthermore, neither group can petition for extended family members, and both must act within 2 years of status approval. 10. Pathway to permanent residency and citizenship. Both refugees and asylees are eligible to apply for a green card 1 year after being granted status, but their paths differ slightly. For refugees, the green card process is mandatory. They must adjust their status after 1 year. Asylees may choose whether or not to apply for permanent residence, though it is strongly encouraged. From there, both groups follow a similar timeline toward U.S. citizenship. After 5 years as permanent residents, they can apply for naturalization. However, the refugee timeline may feel more structured, while the asylee route often requires more proactive legal navigation. Understanding the differences between asylum and refugee status is crucial not just for legal accuracy but also for making informed decisions about seeking protection in the United States. While both statuses aim to offer safety from persecution and a path to legal residence, they vary widely in terms of application location, legal procedures, timelines, benefits, and family reunification opportunities. Refugees go through a pre-departure process from abroad, while asylum seekers must be physically present in the U.S. to begin their journey. Each path comes with its own challenges, but knowledge of these distinctions can empower applicants, advocates, and policymakers alike. Whether you're navigating the system yourself or supporting someone who is, a clear understanding of these differences is the first step toward achieving a secure and lawful future in the United States.